Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of me pivoting my business. In today's episode, I talk a little bit more about my fears, specifically my fears around money and the disconnect that I feel with my current business and career and how I can align that a little bit more. And then Aish and I also go into what I would want my ideal day to look like and how I can create a schedule to work based on my lifestyle, especially considering that I have this condition called PMDD, which really debilitates me whenever I'm getting close to my period or I'm on my period. I find that one of the biggest hurdles in my life when it comes to work. So, we talk a little bit more about how I can work my schedule around that, how I should be looking at achieving my goals, and what I would want my typical workday to look like. So, I hope you guys enjoy this and let's get right into it.
The goal of today's session, if you want to kind of like take the first three, the first session was very much around unraveling, getting your fears out, like getting everything on the table, getting really like real with yourself about like what's blocking you. Second session was a reflection and a kind of a reflection to help you better understand yourself as how you should perceive yourself, but also how other people perceive you as well. And then kind of some of the tools in terms of like how to remember that, how to keep that kind of fresh. And this third session is more about your day-to-day, how your life is, how you want your ideal life to look like. What are the key components that's going to make your day-to-day worthwhile? And then for the next four in session 5, we're going to actually bring in the business piece of it. All right, so let's start with kind of the journaling exercise. I want to know, I know you said that you got a chance to do it last night. So how has that been?
So let's start with the first question. You said, where do I feel boxed in? Am I imagining it? So I think we kind of talked about that a little bit in our first session, where I feel boxed into kind of being a makeup artist. I feel like people don't take me seriously because of my looks. The more I reflected on it, the more I do feel like a lot of it is imagined, because not imagined, but like I would say based on previous experiences, but I'm letting it hold me back. And then I think that's in itself manifesting into my life. I don't think it's imagined in the sense that like I just made it up, but I think it's imagined in the sense of like it is what I continue to believe, so it's what's going to keep happening. And I think like when I talk to other people, it's clear that they don't feel that way about me. Like I get a lot of good feedback of like, I feel really comfortable talking to you about my mental health. I feel like you have a lot of insight and things like that. And so in that sense, again, like I feel like it's imagined, right? Like I'm kind of boxing myself into this category of like people only look at me as a makeup artist and don't see that I have something else to offer. Another place that I felt kind of boxed in was this like imposter syndrome, which I think kind of goes hand in hand with what I just like talked about, which is like just growing up, I just didn't feel like, like I didn't feel good enough. I felt like I had to really prove myself all the time. And so you get that with the mix of I feel like I'm just a makeup artist and people aren't going to see me in a better light or sorry, in another light. And finally, the last place I really feel boxed in is like, I feel the clock ticking. So like the time pressure, getting older. Also, it's not so much about getting older, but it's the fact that I'm older and have responsibilities. So like the fact that I have bills to pay and people that rely, like I have like a husband that also relies on me, like, and we have goals that we want to hit. And I just feel like I'm in this position of like, oh my God, I'm 28, I'm changing everything over again. And now, I feel like I feel this pressure of like, I got to get it right on the first try. Otherwise, like, what am I doing? I don't have time to waste.
Let's pause on that real quick. I want to dive into something just really quickly, because I don't think this is something that we've covered in for the first 2 sessions, is kind of like your external support system. Okay. So I know like you have your personal goals, you and your husband have your personal goals, and then I'm sure there's family pressure and whatnot as well. Yeah. How would you say that you feel supported individually with your husband and like with your family? And so like what's the pressure that's coming in internally or that you're internalizing? And what's the pressure that's coming in externally?
So internally, I think it's like me, like just being like, that anxiety that I've held on since
Yeah.
I was younger, of the, I can't fail. Like if I fail, I'm gonna look dumb. If I fail, like I'm not gonna be good enough. And then wanting, I think for a long time, wanting that external validation from my parents, which I feel like in recent years, I don't know if I've fully gotten over it, but it's way better than what it was before.
Yeah.
And so like it's just that like subconscious anxiety that I've like kind of kept in me of like I feel like I have to do it all on my own
Yeah.
and I don't know where to start, and the clock's ticking and I feel scared that if I don't pick the right thing that I'm going to fail. So that's where like that internal, I feel like I'm not supporting myself internally.
Yeah.
Externally, I feel like my husband is very supportive. You know, he makes good money enough for us to live comfortably while I figure things out. And he's said that to me over and over again. But at the same time, you know, I also feel like I'm disappointing him because we had plans, and it's also just like hard for us to financially plan for the future. Like he has to put that on hold, I have to put that on hold because I don't necessarily know what's going on with my income, and like I'm obviously not financially stable, right, because I'm switching things around right now. And so I think there's a lot of guilt that comes out of that, not that he makes me feel guilty, but it's something I kind of bring upon myself of like, you know, he'll bring it up in topic. Like, I need to kind of know what your financial situation is, not in a you're fucking this up kind of way, but in a like,
Let's use this to plan.
yeah,
What
it's like we
and
need
what
to
we
know
can
this
do. Yeah.
information to plan, right? Which is, I think, completely valid. And so there's a lot of like guilt and fear and shame that comes around that too, because I'm like, oh, I feel like I'm not contributing to this family. I also feel like growing up, I was very independent. And so now going through this where I'm like, I'm depending on someone else right now to make sure that we're okay. Like I'm making a little bit of money, but I don't feel like I'm contributing like
Yeah.
equally. Right. And so I don't want to be in that position. I think there's a lot of pressure that comes from that too. He's very supportive in the sense of he's like, you know, we're going to be okay until you figure out what you need to do. But he's like, but I need you to figure it out. Like, I need you to actually like start taking steps towards like doing things. Like you can't just kind of sit around, which again, I think is completely valid. And I think I also need to just like be okay with letting him take the financial lead right now, which I definitely think is like something that really hurts me inside because I'm like, oh, I just feel, I don't know, it just feels weird. It feels weird, I think. You know,
I resonate with you. I get it. It's so hard, especially when we were raised to be like independent and like, you know, take care of ourselves, and taking a step back or asking for help can seem really difficult and can seem like, oh,
especially
like
financially, I feel like I can ask for help in other areas, but financially, I think just the way I was raised and the way things just kind of ended up being, I ended up becoming really financially independent at a young age. So it's just like a weird thing to not be financially independent right now, you know?
So I know one of the prompts that we talked about was specifically around money, because I do know that there's a lot of like limiting beliefs and fears around that. So I do want to touch on that. But right before we do that, one thing that I think might help, and that definitely helped me in my journey, was to recognize that life is consistently changing, right? And each phase, each chapter is going to look a little different. So just because somebody is supporting you or somebody is helping you right now in this moment, and because there's a lack of clarity or there's a lack of like structure in this aspect of your life, doesn't mean that this is the way that it's going to be in the future. Our minds are like created to think that our current state is going to be our future state, and that is completely false, right? Like think about where you were before you started your makeup, like your own makeup business. Think about how that has flourished. Think about the mindset that you were in, and then how that got like knocked out of the way, right? And then the same thing, you're here, that doesn't mean this is going to be your future. So like give yourself that space to like recognize and tell yourself again, remember, a lot of this is talking to yourself. Tell yourself again, hey, look, I know that this is the way that I feel right now, and that's valid. And I know that I'm struggling with this, and there's a scarcity around the timing of how quickly this is moving or how slowly this is moving. But this is not a reflection of my past, my future, or my abilities. This is just the current state. And that will continuously change because life is forever changing. And that mental shift is really helpful because then you can start focusing on the positives of each of those experiences, right?
Yeah, it's so true. Like I need to be okay with the fact that things are ever changing and that it's going like that. It's just a current state. It's not.
And you're a manifesting generator, right? Like we learned so much about the way that you act last week. We learned that like as somebody that's a manifesting generator, when it clicks, you will have the ability and the action potential to take things really quickly. So you are the fastest moving of all the different types also. So you know that the states can change really quickly.
Yeah.
So give yourself some like comfort in that. Know that like when it clicks, which it will click. So it's not if it clicks, it's when it clicks, that things will move really quickly. And then that current state will change. Let's go through the money thing, and then I'm gonna go through all of the journaling questions.
So what are my beliefs around money? I think just coming from, an immigrant family, it's that you have to work really hard. Like money doesn't come easily. You have to overwork. You have to almost like burn yourself out. And I know consciously that that's not true, but I don't know if I embody it. And I think what really worries me is the fact that I have this condition and I know I need to slow down. I know I need to I can't work as hard during my period. And I think that scares me because I'm like, okay, well, if I can't work as hard, then I'm not going to make as much money. And like how, like this business isn't going to go anywhere. And then it goes into that spiral. So I feel like changing that belief around like, if I'm not overworking, then I'm not going to make money. Or if I'm not putting in like 150 million%, then like it's not going to generate anything. And I'm finding it hard to kind of let go of that belief because that's how I saw my success in my last business. But that also was like my demise. Like that's what ruined me as well. That's what caused me to burn out. And so I don't want to go through that again. I don't. And I genuinely believe that money can come easily and success can come easily without me having to like burn myself out. It's just a matter of like, how do I prove that to myself? Like, how do I show that that's like real? And like, and how do I make that happen? I so desperately want a really good work-life balance because I don't feel like I had that in the past. And with all these new changes, like, that is something that I definitely need, especially considering my period condition, because I can't work the way I used to work when I was younger.
Most people, regardless of the level of condition around, like most women, I should say, around their period, like that cycle is really, you're not supposed to work super hard, right? Like, again, we live in a world built for men, right? Where we're on a 24-hour cycle and we are expected to deliver the same amount of value every single day. But we don't have to build our lives like that, especially if you're building your own business. And so that's something that I do want to talk to you about today, is what that structure looks like. If there are a couple weeks where you can get a lot done and a couple weeks that you have to take easy, then we need to make that a part of the way that you build your business, right? So, it shouldn't all be like, it could be in like 1 month cycles of the way that you decide what your success or your criteria is, right? People have like 1 week sprints. Maybe your sprint is 1 month sprint. So you don't have to feel guilty that for a week or 2 weeks or whatever amount of time that you need, you're not operating at 150%, because in the rest of the time when your energy is high, you know how much you get done, right? You trust that because I've seen it.
Yeah.
And so the quality of work that you produce. It just has to mean that during the time where you're not at your best, that you have the mechanisms to continue operating and to continue working and pushing out stuff that isn't necessarily stuff that you're creating right then and there. And maybe it's other people supporting you to get that out there, right? Yeah. So that's kind of where the structural stuff is going to be really important to think about. But also I want to ask you, why does it have to be that hard work is what translates to money? Why can't it be work that comes naturally and easily to you? Because something that is hard for me might not be hard for you, right? And something that's hard for you might not be hard for me. So this conception of, or this perception of like work having to be difficult and making money having to be difficult means that everybody operates the same way. That's kind of the underlying thing, right? Which is not true.
I think it is, a lot of it is based on like the way society perceives work, right? Like it's like you have to be able to do all the nitty gritty. And like sometimes I'm like, I don't want to do that. It doesn't fuel me. And so like when I have to do that kind of stuff, I really struggle with it. Like for example, scheduling. Like I'm great with time management, but I hate scheduling. And I think that was one thing that I kind of wanted to talk on when you said, yeah, like we need to implement working around your period. So I know that. I know that I should be working based on my period cycle. I just have no idea how to implement it. I don't get it. I don't understand like where to start. like so it's like I have this information, I know it, I understand it. Like same thing with the whole like money should come easily to me. I don't need to overwork. I know it. I know that. I have that information. How do I implement it though? Like
Yeah.
I think those are two different things for me. And that's where I kind of struggle. And that's where my beliefs around money, like they're not like connected.
Let's give you some tangible things so
Yeah.
you can actually feel like you're holding on to something, because I know that'll make you feel better.
Yeah.
So one, money is just energy, right? Like I'm sure you've heard this. Money is purely energy. It's an exchange of value. It's an exchange. And I think oftentimes we have our own, and I am totally at fault for this as well. Like we have our own limiting beliefs from how the way that we were raised and the way we've perceived money, where I can exchange value for time or for other value, and it's so easy for me. But when it comes to exchanging my value for time, for money, or somebody else's value for money, like that to me is so different. And so, but at the end of the day, value is value. Time, money, they're all just types of energy, right? They're an exchange. And so what we have to kind of take a step back is realize that basically anything that comes easily to us, difficult to us, or anywhere in between, all has some sort of energy expenditure. So that means that there is some sort of value that's like a monetary value that could be associated with it. So basically what I'm saying is a good exercise for you over this week might be to write out all the things that come naturally easy to you.
Okay.
All the things that come naturally that are a little bit harder for you. And I think that'll be really good as we approach like the next couple of weeks, when it's really focused on evaluating what kind of business structure and what kind of business we're going to be focusing on having you really ramp up and build.
Okay.
And then when we think about like your life in general and your schedule in general, like it's literally what I said earlier. It's about goal setting, right? If you have a daily goal, that means you're required to finish that goal every single day. That puts you on a 24-hour cycle. If you have a weekly goal, or like you have 5 goals that you're trying to accomplish in each week, that puts you on a weekly cycle. If you know that there are ups and downs and peaks and valleys within your every month cycle, then your goals should not be smaller than a month. And I don't mean like you can have small goals and small like milestones, but like you shouldn't be hard on yourself and you shouldn't really do an intense reflection anything smaller than a month. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it does. Cause like I feel like right now I'm at a point where I just feel overwhelmed. I'm a very disorganized person. That's another thing I don't really like. I don't like organization. I'm so bad at it, like mentally and physically. Like my room is a disaster. And I feel like that also, I think that is a reflection of my brain. I have so many thoughts and ideas and whatever, and I want to get them all done. It just ends up becoming overwhelming. And then I just like don't end up doing it. Right. And so,
and this is something Ariana also mentioned, right? And even I mentioned the week prior, is that you are somebody that will have a lot of ideas and a lot of things that will catch your attention. And whether it clicks and like you have to give yourself 24 hours for it to know whether like which of these ideas you should kind of continue taking forward. And adding just a monthly structure will give you more context of, is this something that I should do right now? Is this something that like I'm not sure if is a fit, or maybe this is something that I should reevaluate in a couple months?
That makes sense. When I do that, like how would you kind of go about that? Because like, would you just write down all the things that like for example, like would I just like write down all the things that I want to do in the month and then start to like organize it into like weeks, and then be like, okay, well this feels like I need to get this done. Not I need to get this done, but like this feels like it would jive in this week. And that's what would make me happy. And that's what I would like to get done. Versus like, yeah.
So there's a tool, an online tool that will be really helpful for this, this is something that I think we should actually cover next week. So I'm going to pause you on us getting too deep into it, because once we have an idea of your like actual day-to-day structure, then it'll be great for us to put this together. So let's go through that process for today, and then we can go back into it. But I appreciate your enthusiasm.
Good to know that we're going to touch on that, because I think that's something that's always just like really overwhelmed me. And I'm like, where do I start? There's like so many things to do.
For now, let's talk about, like, I'm going to ask you just some questions around your ideal day-to-day life. So let's pause from thinking about right now and let's future project for a second. So let's think about, in your ideal work situation or life situation, frankly, what would you like, walk me through what a normal day would look like? How would you spend your time? What would you do in the morning? Would you have a morning routine? And then just walk me through that day.
Okay, so I do want to keep my morning routine. I enjoy that. I feel like it brings me happiness and it calms me down and it sets my day up nice. Ideally, after that, I would want to be working on something that I feel passionate about. So that would be, to me right now, helping people with their mental health, and coaching people through, more specifically within that niche, coaching people through their upbringing and how their relationship with their parents is. Ideally, like that I would like that to be my niche. I feel like that's something that I have experience in and I enjoy talking about, and I can relate to people on a deeper level. That would include something like doing a workshop or doing like one-on-one coaching sessions. And then also, I would also like it to include creating content, because that is something I really enjoy. It's just that right now I'm not enjoying it because I feel like I have to do it in order to make money. And I don't want that to be the case. I want to just like, I don't want that to be the reason I have to do it. I want to do it because making content is something I genuinely enjoy doing. That would be my day. That's what I would like my work day to look like. And then going into like a nighttime routine of just unwinding for the night, shutting off completely. I don't want to have to think about work and be bombarded with work or anything like that, or overwork, or feel like, I have XYZ person to respond to. I want to ideally be able to just completely leave it and do things that just make me happy at the end of the night. So like watching TV, playing video games, reading a book, taking a bath, something like that.